often talk about the ascension. We actually see the ascension as the highest goal in this life. We actually live for that ascension. And day by day, our whole thrust should be toward the ascension. Today we have a very interesting study that to me goes a little bit past the ascension. One in which helps us to get a better view on what we are really trying to accomplish. This study was given by beloved Maximus, a great being from the great central sun. He is very advanced in his understanding. He starts out in this dictation by that is recorded, I should say, in volume 20, number 29 of the Pearls of Wisdom. He starts out by saying, this is the dispensation of the word sent forth. What does that mean to you? What does it mean, the meaning of the word dispensation? If you look in the dictionary, it says it's a formal authorization. So it isn't just that he wanted to come and share with us. It was a formal authorization by Alpha that he come to give this information. He said the word that arcs, this dispensation of the word that arcs from the light of Alpha, from the heart of Omega, unto the heart uplifted for the cosmic purpose. He says, I bow before the God within you. I am a servant of the Most High. I adore him wherever he has enshrined a portion of himself in the vastness of the cosmos. I bow before the Lord of creation in the bird of springtime, in the blade of grass, in the child, in the chela, in the umbel of every system of worlds. He says, I step forth from out the great central sun to focalize on this occasion of my coming, he's going to focalize the counterpoint force field of an energy center that is within the central sun. The counterpoint force field of an energy from the central sun. Where is that? That is in the decree sessions we have. We create a counterpoint force field of the Father, Mother God. It is the counterpoint of Omega. Therefore, I come on a mission for the Mother. I come in devotion of the eternal light of Omega, the One, the Beautiful, the Light. The Almighty One has pronounced that the certain force field shall be sustained and maintained by the light which I carry, and the light which I am, that is, the light of God, is always dedicated to the intensification of that light that is called Maximus. This name that I bear as the banner of a Son of God may be used then as a noun or as a verb. He said, I come then to Maximus. I come then, as you would say, to maximize the effect, the effort, the concentration, the light. I come then, O sacred ones, to sustain a certain focus of the great central sun magnet. This force field will be for the eventual ascension and return of this sector of the matter cosmos unto the white fire core of Alpha. What he's really saying here is that in the creation you have the outbreath of God. And as the outbreath of God goes out, the creation happens, the planets, the people, etc. And then on the in-breath, it should be the finalities of all of that which has been created, and it comes back in for recharging, recreation. It is, as it were, the placing of the dot, the making of the spot, that focal point from which these several worlds will ascend one day. And that one day, as a distance of time and space, need not concern you, for it is beyond your comprehension. What is he saying? He's giving us a tip so that we can begin to open our consciousness, but not expecting us to understand what it's like. They say 1,000,000 years is like a day. And we have been around for 1,000,000 years. And therefore, probably, we are on the the coming in on the breath. But, as he's saying, he's talking about timelessness. And therefore, we have no way, just like you would have no conception at all of what 1,000,000 years is. We can't even count that far, let alone remembering or understanding what it's all about. He said, nevertheless, since in this age we have one incarnation in Terra who can receive our light, which was our messenger, it was determined by cosmic councils that this transfer of light should be announced and recorded and written in the annals of Terra, that some who hear, that some who read, that some who discern life might have the opportunity to accelerate consciousness by the knowledge of the very present, by the very presence of an energy field. Now, I would suggest as we process from here on that you have your pen and pencils ready, because he gives some very tremendous tip-offs as to our own ascension and to that which is even beyond that ascension. You might like to make some notes so that you can apply them. He says you may also call that energy field Maximus. For you see, the word has many connotations, and it is a point for the centering of consciousness on a certain light of Mother, the Ma, of a cosmos, and the I of individualization. And again, the confirmation of Mother within the US, the us, of the Elohim, of twin flames, of Alpha and Omega. You know, I've often heard Lanello take a word and you break it down and you see the cosmic end that's behind it. And so that's what he's doing here. He's taken Maximus, the M-A, the first two letters, which is Mother, which is the all. And then he talks about the I, the M-A-X-I-M-U-S. So it's M-A for Ma, the I for the individualization of the flame. That's you and me. And the U-S, which he's talking about of Elohim, of twin flames, of Alpha and Omega. And the mighty X factor, the X in the middle, in the center of the word, is the nexus of the turning of the cycles for the integration of the flow of the Buddha and the Mother over the figure 8 pattern. You would note, he says, that the sign of the X is the abbreviation for the sign of the figure 8. You simply erase the curves, and what you have left is the X in the center. Maximus. Maximus. It is the representation of dedication to the Mother of all life and to all that is suspended within her womb. He says, I am a light, a kindling light of worlds. What's kindling? You want to kindle a fire, you want to so on. If you look in the dictionary, kindling means illuminate. I am a light. I am the illumination of worlds. My service to life is in the center of the flaming yod. My service to light is in the center of Elohim. And when I say my, I include in my self-awareness a numberless array of cosmic beings, all of whom are dedicated to that flame of cognizance, or that flame of awareness of the Almighty Maximus. So he is really saying he is not only an individual, but he is many, many individuals who really hold his flame. And as we begin to take a look at God in a greater form, you begin to see that much of this has to be understood. There are many, many people behind a great, great master like this. He says it is not easy for unascended life streams to understand cosmic consciousness. I guess that's what we've been wrestling with in the last few minutes. It's hard to understand cosmic consciousness, identification of worlds, all in one. Can you see this? Here you have the cosmos, as far as you can possibly imagine it, worlds upon worlds upon worlds. And yet at the same time, it's all in one. It's like being in the center of the mind of God. And you see all of these ideations, ideal aspects that God has created in his mind, and you see them out here. But it's all one. He says, what is the being that I am? What is the garment that I wear? Can you transcend the planes and leave off from the identification of myself and my role as an anthropomorphic form? When you try to visualize Maximus, do you see a man? This is where he's challenging you. Can you tear yourself from the boundaries of an image that looks like yourself and behold before you a flaming sphere, a spherical one, a consciousness that does not attempt to occupy a body such as your own, or even a semblance of that form? So when I talk about God the Father, what do you see in your mind? When you pray to God the Father, who are you praying to? Do you see him as the painter painting God up here as a man with a long beard reaching out to touch humanity? What do you see when you talk about an angel? Do you see somebody with a body like yourself? Well, they can manifest that. Or do you see a flame? You've seen the picture of seraphim, which is a huge flame with a face. This is what he's talking about. He said, I come before you then as a sphere of light, that you may be weaned from that typical consciousness that would place cosmic beings in a mold inappropriate to our functioning. As your scientists will soon display, there are vehicles and modes, and then there are again vehicles and modes for the journey, for the work, for the exploration of a cosmos. When you have outgrown a certain mode, it is put aside and you occupy another mode. In the mode that you are used to experiencing day by day, it's not very adequate to go to the moon or go out into the cosmos and experimenting. We can't very well say, as Lanello said, I am everywhere in the consciousness of God. We can think that we can approach that, but can you be on this planet or that planet at will? Can you work as that way? You can't do it as far as keeping in your body. You have to begin to leave the body behind and move out in the sphere of consciousness. He said, in reality, one and all are spheres of light. You and I are a sphere of light. On this place, planet, we have a body. But when we leave this, we leave our body behind and we either bury it or burn it or something, because it's no more useful. For now we are in our sphere of light and we move on from there. He said, but then to be that sphere in actuality will require some spirals of acceleration. What does that mean? It means, frankly, that you take, for instance, water. When it's really slow in frequency, it's ice. You start increasing that frequency, that velocity within itself, and it begins to become water flowing. You keep increasing the acceleration of it, and it becomes steam. So it is with you. Those who have the experience of near-death experience, they tell you that it's like going into a tube, and they go up and go up faster, 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 the acceleration to the point where they can see and experience spiritual beings. And then they listen and they hear and they talk with the spiritual beings, and then they have to come down the tube, coming down slower and slower and slower and slower and slower. So this is what he's talking about here. We have to think in terms of, if we want to be where we want to be, we have to learn the acceleration. He said, therefore I am come. For it is the key to acceleration that I bring and that I manifest in this energy field. Think of this, the key to acceleration. The Brotherhood has brought to you over the years the key to expansion, the key to becoming yourself, and the many keys of alchemy. You have heard the word acceleration, but do you understand the meaning of the acceleration of acceleration? The acceleration, the moving faster and faster and faster. This is why in the decree sessions, we start out slow. It's easy to say the words. And then we start speeding it up. You are increasing the acceleration of thought, of verbal expression, etc. But we must go much, much, much higher than this yet. It's a matter of understanding that within oneself, one can only experience at certain levels of acceleration. I read some time ago where one of the explorers by the name of Cook came with his ships early in our civilization, and he brought his people on board onto shore, and the Indians had never seen anybody like this before. And they thought he was a god. He said, "Where did you come from?" "Well, I came from those ships." "What ships?" They couldn't see the ships because they had no understanding of what it was all about. It wasn't until they took the Indians out and put them on the ship that they could have the concept of what this. Now they could see the ship. Isn't this like what we are dealing with in spirit? If you've never seen an angel, then an angel doesn't make much sense. You might even believe in them, but until you are able to conceive of them, of that vibration high enough, you can't really experience it. And this is what he's talking about. He said, well, it's a multiplication factor, he says. It is the exponent of God himself, whereby God transcends himself. Only those who have the consciousness and the light necessary and the required attainment will have access to this maximus acceleration of acceleration. But then we come for only one if there is but one. We come for only two if there's only two. For you see, wherever there is a soul in cosmos who has come to that point to fulfill the obligation to accelerate light in this manner, there I must come. There I must stand. There I must bow before the God, the flame of God. So you begin to see something here. Only as we in consciousness arise, move up to that point whereby we begin to experience this higher frame of reference, will he then be assigned to come and work with us, even if there's only one. This is really an amazing situation coming up as we are preparing for it. A concept and awareness of how this works in terms of this higher frequency, higher vibration. And it would change our approach in terms of thinking of our ascension. He said, who is it that has impelled me to come out of the great central sun, to arc an energy field, and to teach Achila in the way. I mean, which one of you guys that I've come? This was in the conference, and I was there. I would like to have said, I did it. But of course, I understood that I was not that far along. Perhaps it was the messenger, perhaps it was somebody else in the group. But someone was to the point where he was assigned to come and to open this door of understanding. And from then on, and from right now, after working with this all week, I have put more energy into creating, lifting, moving upward in my whole conscious awareness of vibration. He said, well, I will not tell you this day who he came to for, but perhaps another year and another will see the revelation revealed to you. It matters not, you see, for what one can do, all can do. All of us can reach these points of mastery. He said, I bring this teaching in order that you might understand the cosmic import of the statement, when a pupil is ready, the teacher appears. Imagine this, how the Almighty One does not neglect one soul evolving in time and space. Not one soul escapes the gaze of those solar hierarchies, the solar logoi, and those ones whom you consider to be so far, far beyond in the levels of hierarchy. So far, I hope you have 2 points put down on your paper. One, that you are a sphere of light, not a body. And that sphere of light you must start developing and making brighter and brighter. And secondly, you must excel, expand, expand, expand like water, bringing that energies higher and higher. And now we go into the third point, which to me is very exciting. He said, yet you see, there is a ringing. It is the ringing of the energy of the soul when it reaches a certain peak of attunement and attainment. There is a ringing. And in that moment of the ringing, there is the registering within the very being of the members of the cosmic councils, and all when a certain soul has reached a certain momentum of attainment. Not until that moment is that soul recognized by certain members of hierarchy, for they leave to the servants of God, the ascended masters, serving the spirit, the specific worlds, that duty of ministering to life. So there's a ringing. You are ringing. But is that ringing high enough in frequency to come on the screen of the cosmic councils? Or are you still working on the level of the ascended masters, which is not bad? I'm just saying this is where we are going in terms of where we want to be. He said, but when certain unascended souls are by attunement reach levels of awareness that can even equate with those who are ascended, excuse me, if you can get your vibration up high enough to equal those who are already ascended, that's what he's talking about, then the identity comes across the screen, and the screen of penetration, and the members of the cosmic council will see that soul as clearly as though the soul were in proximity, standing near, even when the soul is a billion light years distant. Think you then that somehow God does not know your thought, your heart, your actions? You know, this opens a whole new understanding. When you realize every moment of every day, every thought you think, every word you speak, every feeling you have, it's being noted on the screen. You are not apart from, you are one with, you are the God himself. And you are in people, you are being watched, you are being understood, you are being fed. If you can begin to see this, it's another step, that next step up. And then he talks about the next level. Because he said, involved with all of this, there is a vast network that comprises the comfort flame. The comfort flame interpenetrates that cosmos. And the very nature of the comfort flame is the mother's awareness of her child. Wherever the child is, the mother knows. And you mothers out there know that. If Johnny's out in the backyard playing, and you're in the kitchen, and suddenly he gets around the house and he's moving up toward the street, your mother knows that. She goes to the door and says, Johnny, come back here. How did she know? It's the comfort flame. It's the mother's awareness of her child. Wherever the child is, the mother knows. If the child is happy or sad, in distress or danger, the mother knows. The mother keeps the vigil. So is this comfort energy of life, the registering upon a cosmos of all that transpires. My dear friends, our Father, Mother knows. The cosmic councils know. The masters know what's going on with you at any moment. It changes our whole perspective. Wait a minute, I am in the attention of my Father. Suddenly, what I think matters. What I feel matters. What I project matters. And now we go to the next level of understanding. Phenomenal. That comfort flame, by the way, was a 4-point you should have on your name. Then he says, I breathe out a sacred breath. It is a breath that you have not breathed in this life. It comes now to you. Breathe deeply. Take into yourself the essence of my life. So I want to stop here. Everything you know so far. You know that he is a flame. He is a tremendous sphere of light. He is very close to you. Now close your eyes and breathe in that essence. Breathe in his essence. See it going into your mouth, in your nose, into your lungs, going through your whole being. Feel it. Sense it. He said, do you know that you have many ways of marking those footsteps in the sands of time? The path through space. We don't usually remember what happens that way, but we have left our mark in space. The handprint, the footprint, the electronic presence, the inner blueprint, the word that you speak. Now, when I first started out in this, some of the first things that we did with small groups, and we walk into a group and we would talk about the ability to pick up vibrations around us. And so we would demonstrate. Since I had not known these people, you would shake a hand and then you would share with them about themselves. And you go to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. What do you pick up in your hands? This is what he's talking about here. Your handprint. If you watch a person leaning on a table, putting his hand on the table, and then when he walks away, you walk up and put your hand on the table, you will be able to pick up from that person much about his life. The handprint, the footprint. We have what do you call them? We have centers in our feet, chakras. I'm trying to think. We are chakras in our feet. When we do a preparation for death, we close the chakras in the feet. But they're there. When you go barefooted, you pick up from there and you project there. You have the electronic presence, your aura around you. You have your inner blueprint, the word that you speak. And they say, at least they've been saying, scientists have been saying for some time, that they believe eventually we will be able to pick up the very words that Jesus spoke 2,000 years ago, because it's still alive. It's still there. When you say a word, it goes out. I remember when I was a kid, I was impressed. Gasoline Alley used to be one of those comic strips I read. And I remember somebody said some really bad words, and the words formed and they started floating away, and everybody was looking at it and seeing what that person had just said about so-and-so. That made an impression on me. Something said, yes, this is reality. But then he goes a step further, which is really pushing us. He said, but do you know that you also leave a record by your breath? For when you breathe in, the breath is stamped with the record of your soul. And when you breathe out, the imprint is left. Now this isn't so far-fetched that we can't get it. Sit beside someone who has bad breath, and you go, wow, something's wrong with that man's digestion or something. It's imprinted there. We know that. But what about spiritually? Every breath you breathe, it's imprinted with your individualization. Think of that as miraculous as the very hairs of your head being numbered. And if the hairs of your head and your comings and your goings and your yes, and if the hairs of your head and if your breath and your hand and your feet and your heartbeat, then how much more your days and your comings and your goings and your taking of the energy of life. How great is the wondrous plan of God. How grateful we are in humility for the wonders that we observe. We behold the glory of the stars, of the simple manifestations of stellar consciousness, and we rejoice and we are glad. And this This gladness transferred to you is all that you require for the solution of every problem hour by hour. It is gladness. It is singing. It is praise and thanksgiving. It is music in the soul. It is simply knowing God is that dispels all wrong, all injustice, all weariness of heart and soul. Think then on simple truth for comfort. The simple truth is comfort. Then the application of simple truth to the complex formulas of a cosmos, this is for acceleration of Maximus. I just heard this morning in the invocation, the multiplication of 10,000 times 10,000, maximizing the acceleration of acceleration. See then how the strains of consciousness of God give to you the requirement of each hour, each cycle of opportunity to be God. Yes, he fashioned a sword of blue flame as opportunity. Yes, he fashioned that sword. I was there. I saw him, Michael the archangel, fashioning the sword that you would one day wield and by which you would be cut free. Another example of opportunity, of gladness, of the simple lines of truth with so much youthfulness in these plains. Youthfulness. Is that not a good definition of truth? Usefulness. If you are truth, then be useful to God and man. If you are not useful, then tie into the cosmic plan, then forge a God identity, and see how you will be useful. Useful in love, in liberation, in life, not death. So measure your overcoming and your attainment by your usefulness to the community of God, to the brotherhood, to all life. Is not usefulness the parallel of service? How can you be of service if your life is not molded in the practical measures of usefulness? Some have noticed that very shortly after retirement, many souls take their leave of this plane because they no longer feel useful to life. As long as they are active in the flow of life and in giving themselves in service, they are sustained in life by the flame of usefulness. That which ceases to be useful ceases to be. Think about that. That which ceases to be useful ceases to be. It is the law of cosmos. The energy then must be recycled. It has served its purpose, and so it must go on evolving to a greater usefulness. Now we understand what the second death is. For those people who are not useful, who use up all of their life force in uselessness, the energy then is recycled. They lose their identity. Whereas those who are useful, who are constantly creating life and sharing life with other people in usefulness, they move on into greater and greater experience of the God being. He says, I come in the gratitude that I have been useful to God this day and to your souls, that I have been useful unto Mother Omega, unto Father Alpha, and unto the children of God, and the one who keeps the flame of Mother Onterra. This is my satisfaction of this cycle and of my coming. Will you not also be grateful that you also have been useful to God this day, very simply in being the recipients of my ray? This is usefulness. And if you had not accomplished another act this day, you would have served a grand and cosmic purpose. For you see, the condition of my coming to speak, set by Alpha and Omega, was that a certain number of keepers of the flame should gather to transfer that light and that word, to balance the energy, the intense light that otherwise could not have been borne either by the messenger or by the children of God on earth. That number has been met. I will not tell you what the number is, but I will tell you this, that on another occasion in cycles past, a number of years, there was an opportunity when I could have spoken when Alpha and Omega set forth the same requirement. And on that occasion, the requirement was not met. The sufficient number of keepers of the flame had not come and had not answered the call to one of the conferences. And therefore, so as not to disappoint the messengers or the keepers of the flame, it was not told at the time. And therefore, you see, by your coming, you have redeemed and atoned for that lack, and thus fulfilled your usefulness, past, present, and future. When you are thinking then in future days to make your decision whether or not to make the trek to come where the dictations are given forth, would you consider that others are also making decisions, cosmic councils and cosmic beings, and that their decision whether or not to make the trek to Terra may well depend upon your decision whether or not to make the trek to the place consecrated by the Great White Brotherhood in this age? What a responsibility suddenly befalls each of us. Oh, we want to grow, we want to move up, we want to get there. But much depends upon our response. Whether we put out the energy to get there, to be there, to hold the energy so that that higher power can come. This happens so many times on Sunday even, in the worship service. Jesus said, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name. But if you don't have 2 or 3 gathered together, how can he come? It's an amazing awareness that when we start moving upward, we have a responsibility to be there to help hold the energy so that something can happen. So important for us to understand. So many of our times are weakened by the fact that somebody didn't come because they didn't feel up to it this Sunday. Well, I didn't feel up to a sermon this morning even. Did it matter? No, it does not matter. What matters is, am I going to be there so I can be and hold that flame so that something can happen for everybody? It's so important to understand. We like to piecemeal this like we go into a restaurant. I'll have this, I'll have this, I'll have this. I don't feel like doing any more than that. Do that on Sunday morning. I'm sorry. But it doesn't work that way. It's when each one takes the responsibility of being on the beam, being there, that tremendous things can happen. Your responsibility and my responsibility. This changes our whole perspective of understanding what we are doing and why we are here. And he says, awesome? Is it awesome? Well, I say to you, precious ones, all of life is awesome indeed. The vastness of our interrelationship and our interresponsibility is vast. Our decisions affect life waves in far-flung worlds, but then yours do also. And by this you may know that God lives in you. And therefore, I take my leave of you, and I bow to the God within as the great source of life and matter. The God within you I salute. And your free will aligned with that God, I do praise. In his name I am that I am. Beloved Maximus, you have certainly expanded our consciousness, our awareness of our own responsibility and beingness. So maximize within me in this very moment my awareness, that force field in which hierarchy not only can come and work, but also that I can be on the screen of the cosmic councils and know that my thrust toward my own ascension and cosmic consciousness is expanding to the point where I truly am already ascended in the light and free. God bless this moment and each one who have ears to hear and a heart to accept and become. For I ask it in the name of Jesus Christ, in the name of the Father and of the Mother, the Son and of the Holy Spirit.